In today's video, we're talking about Euphoria's two most notorious siblings, Lexi and Cassie Howard. Across 3 seasons, we've watched these two undergo a massive evolution. When we're first introduced to them, they seem like the typical archetypes we've seen 100 times before. Cassie is the pretty one, caught in a cycle of boys and popularity, and Lexi is the quiet one, watching from the sidelines. But as the story goes, we realize that's just the surface. Today, we're breaking down how these two are essentially 2 sides of the same coin. They were raised in the same house, they witnessed the same toxicity, and they felt the same absence. They experienced the exact same damage, but reacted in opposite directions. One chose to be seen at any cost, and the other chose to hide until she could control the narrative. We're going to be breaking down that trajectory, how they got here, why they handled the chaos of their household so differently, and why, at the end of the day, their paths are much more similar than we'd like to admit. Before we look at the two individually, we need to look into the environment that molded them. The Howard sisters didn't just grow up in a broken home, they grew up in a home defined by unreliability and performance. They shared the same 2 parents, a father whose addiction eventually led to their total abandonment, and a mother, Suze, who, while present, often functioned more like a peer or a bystander than a parental figure. Collectively, Lexi and Cassie learned early on that the adults in the room were not going to provide the stability they wished for. In this house, chaos was the baseline. They both witnessed the same fights, the gradual disappearance of their father, and the emotional vacuum left behind. They were essentially left to self-regulate in a household where the rules changed depending on who was sober or who was spiraling. They both carried the weight of a family name that felt like it was constantly on the verge of collapsing. Cassie's experience. As the older sister, Cassie was the first to witness the family's peak and its subsequent fall. Because she was the firstborn, she bore the initial brunt of the expectations. Her upbringing taught her that her primary value was her visibility. She saw the way people looked at her and the way her mother projected her own missed opportunities onto her. Her looks played a massive role in this. In the Howard household, Cassie's job was to be the beautiful one, the one who could garner enough attention to distract from the mess behind closed doors. We see this early on with her ice skating. It was something her father actually paid attention to, a performance that earned her a brief moment of being seen. But that attention is a double-edged sword. She experienced the trauma of her household as a direct threat to her desirability. If she wasn't loved by a man, or if she wasn't being picked, she felt like she was disappearing entirely. Her experience was one of seeking a lifeline in every person she met because the foundation she had at home was so hollow. Lexi's experience. While Cassie was reacting by trying to be everything to everyone, Lexi's experience was defined by slowly disappearing into the background. As the younger sister, Lexi had the benefit of watching Cassie's mistakes first. She saw the fallout, the volatility of her parents, and the messiness of Cassie's public life, and she made a conscious, silent decision. I will not be that. Lexi's upbringing was one of a professional observer. She lived in the same household, but she experienced it from the corners of the room. She became the easy child, the one who didn't ask for much because she saw how much space everyone else's problems were already taking up. That creates its own kind of damage, a deep-seated resentment, and a feeling that she only existed as a supporting character in a story she didn't even write. Her experience was about internalizing the chaos until it eventually had to explode. The parental dynamic. With their father, they both experienced a slow-motion heartbreak. Cassie tried to fix the hole he left by seeking male validation elsewhere, while Lexi tried to fix it by being so perfect and stable that she'd never have to depend on, or lose, anyone again. With their mother, Suze, the dynamic is even more complex. Suze wanted to be a best friend, which meant neither girl had a boundary to lean on. Cassie mirrored her mother's vanity and emotional impulsivity, while Lexi reacted against it, becoming the disciplined, judgmental adult of the house. They both felt the same fundamental neglect. Cassie reacted by screaming for attention, and Lexi reacted by deciding she didn't need it, until the moment she finally decided to take it. The high school mask. Throughout high school, we see the same coin dynamic get really sharp. It isn't just that they were both damaged, it's that they weaponized their differences against each other to feel superior. Lexi branded herself as the alternative. She thrived on not being like the other girls at East Highland. While everyone else was caught up in hyper-feminine, high-stakes drama, Lexi leaned into being the intellectual, the theater nerd, the observer. She looked at the popular girls, specifically her sister, with a sense of quiet judgment. For Lexi, being different was her armor. If she wasn't the prettiest, she would at least be the smartest and the most above it all. Cassie, on the other hand, leaned into the ideal. Her version of being different wasn't about being quirky. It was about being the ultimate prize. She felt her beauty and her capacity to love made her more worthy. In her mind, she was experiencing life at a higher emotional frequency than someone like Lexi. She saw herself as the main character of a tragic romance, while she viewed Lexi as someone who just didn't get it because Lexi wasn't in the arena of love and desire. The resentment loop. This created a toxic feedback loop. Lexi resented Cassie's gravity, how her messes took up all the oxygen in the room. She looked at Cassie's lashing out and boy craziness with deep disdain. Lexi's play was the ultimate manifestation of this. It was her way of saying, I have been watching you fail for years, and now I'm going to show everyone how pathetic I think you are. Meanwhile, Cassie resented Lexi's moral high ground. She felt Lexi's judgment every single day. To Cassie, Lexi's different persona was just a way to feel superior without ever having to take a risk. Cassie's mean girl turns toward Lexi were her way of trying to puncture Lexi's ego, to remind her that just because she's quiet doesn't necessarily mean she's better. When you peel back all of this, you see the irony. They are both obsessed with how they're perceived. Lexi needs to be seen as the unique, stable intellectual. Cassie needs to be seen as the beautiful, tragic lover. They are both performing. They are both desperately trying to carve out an identity that proves they aren't just the daughters of an addict. They both feel fundamentally misunderstood by their family. Lexi thinks she's special because she's smart. Cassie thinks she's special because she's beautiful. But they're just two girls standing in the room using different masks to hide the exact same feeling of not being enough. The current trajectory. Where are they now? Cassie has reached a state of total ego dissolution. By chasing that ideal version of herself, she eventually lost her identity entirely. She became so desperate to be picked that she betrayed her best friend, her sister, and herself. She is in a place of raw, jagged vulnerability. The mean girl exterior is just a defense mechanism because she realized being the pretty, sweet girl didn't protect her from being abandoned. She's now the villain in everyone else's story because she's trying to be the protagonist of her own. Meanwhile, Lexi has finally stepped out of the shadows, but she did it in the most Lexi way possible, by putting everyone else's trauma on stage. Her play was her coming out party, but it was also her biggest betrayal. She used her observer status to weaponize family secrets. She finally got the attention she always wanted, but she had to become a bit of a predator to get it. She isn't just the quiet, innocent sister anymore. She's proven she can be just as cold and calculating as the environment she grew up in. So, what is their legacy? This is the story of two girls who were given a broken mirror and told to glue the pieces together. One sister looked at the mirror and tried to make herself look perfect enough to fix it. The other sister looked at the mirror, saw the cracks, and decided to study them until she could use the shards as a weapon. They are both damaged in the exact same spot. They both have a father-sized hole in their hearts, and a mother who couldn't teach them how to be whole. Whether it's Cassie's desperate need for romantic validation, or Lexi's desperate need for intellectual recognition, they are both just trying to prove they exist. They might be moving in different directions, Cassie toward a breakdown and Lexi toward a breakthrough, but they are fueled by the same fire. They are two different reactions to the exact same poison. At the end of the day, Lexi and Cassie Howard are not opposites. They are just two different ways of surviving the same situation.